All right, so our final video for the day, week, I suppose. We are going to be turning in our drafts, as much of our drafts as we can next week. Wherever you are on Tuesday, I would really like to see that turned in. I'd like to see as much as possible, clearly, right? Do as much as possible before you turn it in, because the more I have to work with, the less you are going to have to do to make any corrections or changes when we come back from break, right? Once we come back from break, we have 2 weeks. And that 2-week period is going to be busy, right? We're going to be looking at the Balcony by Jean Genet. We're going to be talking about power and power dynamics and what is reality and what is not reality. And we're going to be looking at turning in our final papers, right? Those are going to be due, right, the Monday of finals week, right? So that we can so that I have time to grade and make sure that everything is in, right? Now again, up to this point, what have we turned in? We've turned in midterms. We've turned in, as many as I've put up. Again, apologies with the semester being the way it sort of it has been. As many of our personal reflections throughout the week as possible. Our group projects, right, that you've done with your groups, and right, the one of the most important things, of course, is turning in that final paper, right? What that final paper is going to be graded based on is in the syllabus, right? You're going to be looking at that syllabus. That's what I'm looking at, right? There are a couple things that are very important, again, to remember. When you turn in your draft doesn't have to be perfect. Your draft can be in a lot of different states, right? Because I am working with you on that draft, right? I certainly want you to turn in something that you're proud of. I'd love for you to turn in something that you feel is as close to completion as possible, right? Because I don't want you to have that last 2 weeks having to, scramble to make up what you really wanted to be able to do, right? Before then, right? And also, when you turn in your draft, what I'm going to be able to tell you is where I think your paper is. Now, let's be 100% transparent with this. If you turn in a draft and it's about the length that you want your final paper to be, and I take a look at it, I sort of give you some suggestions. If you do nothing to modify it at all, because there are going to be a few things clearly, right, that I'm going to be looking at, and I'm going to say, hey, you know what, maybe change this, maybe work on this. If you don't change anything, it's not, the grade will be lower at the end. If you turn in something that is, not a great draft, or that's a draft that has a lot of mistakes in it, and you say, good enough, I'm going to turn it in at the end, it's not going to be a good grade for you, right? What I am looking at with this process is that up to this point, right, these expanded outlines and the drafts have been basically ungraded, right? I am not looking at these as, I'm going to be giving you a bad grade because the expanded outline wasn't great or the draft wasn't great. I don't expect either of those things to be in a state that you'd want to turn them in for the final, right? But when you turn in the final paper, I expect it to be in a state that you feel reflects your best efforts, right? If I am seeing your best efforts, if I am seeing you go from a draft that, needs some correction, and you've done those corrections, and you've done the best that you can, I'm going to give you the best grade I can possibly give you, right? I'm going to really try to give you the benefit of the doubt. Again, even your final is not necessarily going to be perfect. I'm not expecting perfection on the final, but what I am expecting is a clear trajectory from expanded outline to final that says I'm improving here, I'm working on it, right? I don't expect Shakespeare. I don't expect, I don't expect Ionesco. What I do expect is the effort, right, that you're putting in, and that you have been putting in throughout the semester. I've been pleased in seeing the conversations going on. I've been pleased with the group videos that I've seen. You are all pulling in and taking in this subject matter. I've been very proud and very pleased with seeing what you've done up to this point. Let's get it across the finish line, right? Keep that effort going. Be willing to make those corrections as well, though. Do not hold on to anything so tightly that you're unwilling to say, okay, if I need to make a revision, I need to make a revision, right? Make those revisions and do what you can to get your paper into the best state possible. So what are we doing next week? Next week we are looking again at Esalen, right? I know we're looking to Esalen for a lot of stuff, and it feels like we've looked at that PDF a lot. One more time, right? Genet is the playwright that perhaps we know the least about, that maybe we are the least familiar with. And so I really would like you to look at Esalen and that PDF again to find out more about Jean Genet. Genet is an interesting character. We are going to be talking about him next week, but I really would like you to focus on learning about who he is and sort of what kind of life he has led that has sort of led him to what he does with The Balcony. This is, again, going to be a very unusual play, and is going to as well be a play that is that may feel difficult to get into. But I think it also reflects basic questions about power, who is in charge, what does power actually mean, and I think it displays it in a fantastic way. I think it does, again, what the plays of the absurd do best, which is it sort of destabilizes our point of view and then allows us to sort of take a new look at structures that maybe we have been thinking about forever without really considering them. So, I will see you when we get to next week. Make sure you're looking at those at the PDF of Esalen. Make sure that you are starting to read even next week, right? The Balcony. I'm also going to point you to a movie version of it that is okay. Be very careful with it. It is not the play. It contains a lot of elements of the play, but it's definitely a cinematic adaptation, and adaptation is a big, big part of it, right? And so read the play, but also be prepared to sort of make some comparisons. All right, I will see you then.